Gina and see what.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our biannual coffee with normally the mayor, but we actually have a special coffee this morning where we are talking with a couple of our esteemed city council members. My name is John McCormick. I'm president of the Chamber Board for this year, and on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to welcome you to our meeting. This meeting is being recorded, so keep that in mind. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce two of our city council members, Carl Anduri and Gina Dawson. They're going to give us a little bit of update on what's going on from the city council side. And then Jay may have a couple of questions for us on behalf of the chamber. And then we will open it up for questions from everybody else. So Carl or Gina, I don't know if you want to give us a little update on what you guys have been up to lately.
Sure. I'll jump right in. Well, we've been up to quite a few things. I think just real quick, I think just to welcome Wei Tai Kwok to the council. That's our latest endeavor and achievement. So we'll look forward to introducing him to council, to chamber. But we're here to talk today about what's going on with our economic recovery plans for the city. As you know, in March, President Biden signed in the American Rescue Plan Act, and that was in response to the pandemic and the economic impacts that had. And part of that included a local fiscal recovery fund, of which Lafayette is eligible. And in fact, we will be receiving $6.3 million in 2 tranches. We received half of that recently. We haven't received it, but it's on its way. And we will receive the second half in another year. That money needs to be obligated by the end of 2024 and spent at the end of 2026. And basically those funds can be used to make up, so to speak, for the impact on local businesses and nonprofits and other industries that have been hit by the pandemic, and also for purposes of public health and safety of the essential workers that are working right now, as well as for restoring infrastructure funds that we may need, and for the city itself to decide our own economic impact, what that means to over the years, the impact of the COVID on us receiving revenue over the years. So we also will be looking at how to use that money in terms of taking it for use for the city, as well as allocating what we can to you folks out there who've been impacted. So just a quick note that we, back in April, hired on we interviewed folks to help us with this. We jumped right on it. Credit to City Manager Shivatsa for getting people that we could interview. Carl and Councilmember Anduri and I worked as a subcommittee, and we still are on that process. We interviewed. We have hired HDL Econ Solutions and Thomas Myers, who you may have met. HDL is going to help us with the strategy and putting that into place. And Thomas is going to be administering the program, and he is our boots on the street. So I hope you reach out to him. Carl, would you like to take over? We're buzzing through this so we can get to more of your questions. So.
Right. Yeah. First, I want to thank the council for this opportunity. When the council asked Gina and I if we'd like to do this back in April, the idea was to give an opportunity for the chamber and the community to talk to the 2 newest members of the council. But now we've been promoted to more senior status, but we still welcome this opportunity. So as Gina said, we, thanks to city staff, we moved on this opportunity right away. And Thomas is on the call here, so I hope at some point you'll be able to see Thomas. He'll go live and you'll see his picture. You'll see him. But the first thing that we did, in addition to Thomas coming on board and spending time talking to people, I think he's met with a number of you, is we developed a survey. That survey has been out there for about a month. We launched it at the end of July, the Business Recovery Survey. And that survey will close next Tuesday, August 31st. So if you haven't had a chance, it's for businesses and nonprofits. If you haven't had a chance to respond to it, please do, because that's going to be part of the critical input. The next step is that at the September 13th council meeting, there'll be a report on the results of the survey, and then other data, including sales tax data, which HDL Econ is looking at. Then during the week of September 20th, we're going to launch a community survey. We're in the process of developing that, but we really won't finalize that until we see what the results are of the business and nonprofit survey. But that'll be launched week of September 20th, and that will close on October 11th. During that same time period, we want to host several community workshops. We had hoped they would be live, but they will be on Zoom. One of the themes we'll talk about later is that in June, it looked like it was going to be a much different recovery than it does now, thanks to the Delta variant. I think it's had a profound impact on where we see things going. So that those meetings will most likely be Zoom meetings, but we want to get that live input as well. And then all that will lead to the October 25th council meeting when staff will present a report on the community feedback, all the feedback we've gotten, and then get council direction on how to proceed. And ideally at that point, we will be able to make decisions as to how we will use at least the first tranche of the funds. But what we want to do now when we open it for discussion, we really would like to get your thoughts on what you think we should do with this really one-time opportunity, getting funds from the federal government. What should we do with those funds? And I will now turn it over to Jay.
Oh, well, thank you, Carl. Good morning, everybody. Let's stick on this COVID and the fallout from this. First of all, I want to say good morning to Candace Anderson, who's on the call with us today, our county supervisor and my favorite pen pal over the last 18 months. We talk almost every day. So let's jump. I'm going to throw something crazy out just to start things off. What about talking about something in Lafayette that would be really bold? Not only does the county require mask wearing at this point indoors, what if we require everyone to be vaccinated that is going into restaurants, retail, gyms, schools, you name it? What do you think about a plan like that? Take it a step further.
Love it. Love it. Think it's the best thing to do for public safety for everyone.
Gina, Carl, any comments on that?
Well,
Give my personal, go ahead, Gina.
I was just going to say, yeah, I think a personal opinion would make it a little more consistent and more certainties for people knowing what they're getting into, walking into, businesses, and it would help with businesses as well in terms of having some good fine lines, but it's also poses some issues as well. I think right now we're following, the mandates in order now are actually recommendations, I should say. But I think that we need to basically assess this, keep on assessing the situation. It's a bold move, and I know there are some constituencies that are going that way, and I think what we will do is want to listen to you. You're the business people. What is your opinions of this? So let us know. But
I think the biggest problem for businesses is that the businesses would be the ones that would be obligated to enforce it, and that's I think the hardest part of that equation. Hey, Carl, here's a question for you. As the GPAC works on crunching the numbers for the units that will be allowed to be built in the downtown, has there been any conversation about additional parking? Chances are we're going to lose parking at the BART station. Would the city consider using some of this relief money that we're getting to be able to put it towards some kind of parking project in the core of the downtown?
Well, I'm going to be consistent on this. Gina and I are here to hear your views on what the funds should be spent on. A parking structure is certainly one possibility. One of the big divides is should the money be spent on individual grants or individual loans for businesses and nonprofits, or should it be spent on investments that will benefit the business community for the long term, such as a parking structure, such as finding a project. This is pandering to David Clark here, but finding a project along the creeks that can really highlight the fact that Lafayette is benefits from having 7 creeks going through the community, and making the downtown more inviting by having a creekside park or something like that.
Thanks. In wanting to listen to us, I think I've shared with both our city manager and our mayor that, and to Thomas as well, that it might be interesting to take a look at using some of that money to offset the continued shortage of money going into the downtown assessment district, and actually put that into our budget and make that a budgeted number every year, rather than trying to find magic money from somewhere else that's going to be very, very difficult to raise.
Yeah, as Gina mentioned, one of the uses of the funds is to make up for budget shortfalls at the city.
Yeah.
And Tracy Robinson, who was going to be on the call, has crunched the numbers on that. And in fact, we think that the entire 6.3 million could be used for that purpose, for the city for shortfalls. So that, and if the city reimburses itself for shortfalls, then those funds can be used for things that might be borderline in terms of ARPA purposes, but could be like the parking structure that may be borderline for ARPA purposes. But if we put it first into the city, and the assessment district would be borderline as well. But if we put it first into the city account and then fund those things, then we can do it.
Great. One last question for both of you, and then we'll turn it over to the group. I'm a member of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Community Committee, and I've been participating in that. And part of the participating was meeting once a week throughout the entire summer, so that we could come back to the city council in September with some direction or ideas, suggestions. As city council members, what are your expectations or aspirations on what we'll be able to deliver by then?
I will
Referring to Gina on this.
I will jump in. I think our aspirations is to basically hear what is coming from the community, what is coming from the task force, because one of the things that we look at is the community speaks. We do need to listen to that, and if there have been recommendations that you're bringing forward, we would like to hear that. I know in GPAC, it's obviously a topic, but how do you include that, and we're looking at the mission statement right now and all this good stuff. So there's different ways that will come into play, but definitely we are looking for what have you come up in those different meetings with hopefully as much as possible diverse voices within that, so that we could bring that forward to the larger public and see how we can incorporate that going forward into planning, into policy.
Thank you. Sean, it's all yours.
Well, great. Well, thank you very much, Jay and Carl and Gina, for giving us an update. So now we're going to turn over to all of you. Just a reminder, we are being recorded. Also, if you can just use your raise hand feature in the bottom of your panel, at least on a computer, iPad might be a little different, and we'll go ahead and just call on people as they come in. And Grace, I believe you were first.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. I have a suggestion for the ARPA funds that I feel qualifies and it also solves a lot of the issues that Lafayette has facing it today. The solution addresses the negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency and replaces lost public sector revenue. The model, or part of the solution approach I took, is, say a family was struggling with funds and you gave them $100. Should they spend it on groceries, or should they use it to plant a garden that will feed them for years to come? So my suggestion is that we use this 6.4 million to create civic public spaces downtown that will aid our businesses, feed our public sector revenue for the next 100 years. I feel that we need a park on both sides of Moraga Road. I feel we need specifically a park near Fiesta Square. That's big number one. And I also feel that we need a community center on the Boswell site. Both of these uses, I believe, fit the ARPA funds requirements. And I also feel that it protects land going forward against recently passed legislation like SB 9 and 10. Parks and parkland cannot be converted into housing because they are public land. I know there's a lot of people here today, but those are my very passionate requests that those funds be used to aid our businesses and our families downtown. And in addition, our downtown residents and new residents are the ones that are going to be bearing the brunt of the housing units. It's not going to be the extended housing out there. So I really think some of their challenges need to be mitigated by uses of the funds that are going to protect their land values, and also the business. Of course, it's well documented that these uses benefit businesses for long term. So thank you.
Thanks, Grace. That's a very good recommendation. And as Councilmember Anduri alluded to, deciding how this money is spent to sort of totally like float all boats, so to speak. Your idea about bringing a parklets where people can congregate and where it brings more of the community downtown to where our services and businesses are is a key thing, especially if we are, our goal is to create density downtown. We would want that vibrancy, and we also want those services for those people that are moving in those kind of areas. So thank you, appreciate that.
And I'll just mention quickly, whatever the outcome of the general plan process and the regional housing number allocation, we will have greater density downtown. So it is going to be important. There are going to be more children living downtown. We need to have parks. We need to think ahead with that. So I agree with that suggestion. Thank you.
Thanks, Grace. Good, great comment as usual. Next, it looks like Allison Hill.
Good morning. Thanks everyone for being here. I certainly echo what Grace says. We do need more parkland, and especially well in the future, but I'm calling about the diversity committee of which I'm a member. And I have not spoken with Wei Tai about this, but he has been a really contributing member of that. We actually don't have a leader. He's sort of an unofficial leader and doing a wonderful job. And I've heard some conversation about whether he can continue to do that while on the council. I have not spoken with him on that, but I would like your opinion as to whether you think that is appropriate or not.
I think that remains to be seen. I would imagine that he could, but because he's a conduit and he could be a liaison, similar to how Councilmember Anduri and I serve as liaisons to different community groups. And I just want to come back to Lafayette being built on volunteerism, and these groups, say similar to Sustainable Lafayette, who create the ability to follow up on our values as a community, with council liaisoning towards that and helping to hear that advocacy and basically follow up on it as best we can and communicate that to the larger community. So I think I can't speak for council, but I would say, in my point of view, I don't see that there would be an issue with that.
Thank you.
I don't see a problem with that either. Weitai has had to resign from the environmental task force, serve on another city commission, but I don't see a problem with them continuing with the diversity, equity, inclusion group.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is great news. Tracy Carroll, you have a question for everybody. I'll mute you there. Working on it. Perfect.
I was raising my hand to speak.
Yes, it is all you.
If I may. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much, Carl and Gina, for hosting this. This is always such a pleasure for me to participate in these things. You learn so much, and to see our community come together always for coffee, it's just great. So thank you, and thank you to the Chamber for doing this. You'll probably all know me by now as a member of the Park Theater Trust, and you've heard me on, and you're going to continue to hear from us, because certainly as this council considers the ARPA funding, the Park Theater Trust feels that the Park Theater actually offers a tremendous opportunity to accomplish many things that we've been talking about even this morning. A downtown space where people can gather, where community can gather, a potential tie-in with the creeks because of the configuration of what the new parking lot proposes to be, and add additional parking spaces for the city, which would be public parking. But one of the critical aspects to it is really how reopening the Park Theater, we believe, brings a really long-term solution with exponential benefits to the entire community and the local economy. City tax revenues, that what's so critical, and I don't know what's coming in on my printer here, so forgive me if it's a distraction. What's critical is is attracting both existing and new customers to the community and to our downtown businesses, and reopening the Park Theater with the programming we envision, which would be movies and then non-film events on a daily basis from the morning until the evening. We feel we have the potential to draw those customers in, and they'll spend monies at the park, and they'll spend monies at the restaurants and the local businesses. Ernst & Young just published a report. It was based on 2019 assessments, but the movie theater industry contributes an estimated of nearly 2.9 billion in state and local tax revenue, or that's what the numbers were in 2019. And of that 2.9 billion, an estimated 43%, which is about 1.2 billion, is due to the sales tax on movie tickets and retail and dining activities associated with the movie night spending. It's quite a detailed report. It goes into California actually is one of the leaders in which isn't surprising. California and Texas both are, but I think that having the Park Theater open again, patrons would come enjoy it on a repeat basis. It would be a new source of employment within the community, an amenity for families, seniors, and young people. It would function as a meeting place and social center that would engage and support community groups and nonprofits. We've had several groups already reach out to us, eager to know what our opening schedule would be so that they could plan their fundraisers and align with us, which to the board is exactly the type of use that we envision for this program. So I guess what we'd like the council to consider, and we'll certainly be coming before you, and we're more than happy to engage in any way, in further conversation on this, but we would request that the Park Theater be considered as a possible recipient of these funds, and preferably in the first tranche, because we are eager to close on the property. We're closing in on those numbers, that $3 million figure. And we're eager to close on it so we can begin the rehab and stick to our timeline of reopening the end of 2022. Our website, parktheatertrust.org, is something I refer you to, and thank you. Sorry about the distraction on the sideline there.
Thanks, Tracy. Yes, the Park Theater lighting up again is pretty exciting. So looking forward to that coming forward and hearing about it. You're right, you know, just similar to what Grace alluded to, a place where people can meet and congregate and be a hub. Hopefully we'll have multiple places for that across town. And as we look forward to figuring out the best way to spend and allocate this money, that, you know, obviously everything will be considered. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Yeah, excellent point as usual. Rola, you have a question? See, you have your hand up. No, okay, we'll come back to you in a bit. David Clark, always the source of the most interesting questions we've got, so no pressure, David.
Yeah, thanks for that high bar. So, good morning, everybody. A couple of things, and as I appreciate the comments, and Carl, I don't consider that, well, if that's pandering, keep it up. But thank you for the comment about the creeks. And as far as the sources of money from a creek perspective, I know one of the things we collectively had talked about was how some of this money might be available for, quote, shovel ready, unquote, projects. I don't think it's, well, it might be. And we have some of those, a couple of anyway, that just come to mind in the city now. The Rain Garden project at the corner of First and Golden Gate it's taken some time. We haven't broken ground yet. And we're still looking at feasibility studies in conjunction with the Park Trails and Rec Commission. But the passage of time has made that more expensive. And the passage of time is to a great extent due to COVID. A lot of people couldn't address what they had to address. So I think, this is just me, but I think we may need some more money to finish that. So that's a relative short-term and probably quantifiable dollar amount. There's another project that we've been talking about. Again, money is going to be an obstacle, but a park or a little parklet at the end of, at the west end. That's coming along. So there's some short-term projects that, yes, Carl, those would be helpful. Medium term, we've been trying to figure out how we, at the Creeks Committee level, can access money to develop many of the things we're going to need to develop going forward. And Tracy, as Tracy mentioned, there's a provision for an easement at the back of the parcel where the Park Theater is and will be. And there are we've obtained other easements and springing easements and agreements of various places around the city for parcels that butt up against the creeks, but there are going to be more. And we're going to need some money in the future, either to acquire some of those easements, perhaps on behalf of the city, or to start developing some of the trail network. And admittedly, a lot of that's off in the future, but the access to that money to a great extent is dependent upon nexus of whatever it is that we're doing that we can ask property owners for relative to what our goals are. And there's a nexus study that I think is coming up, but there's money we need to spend on a nexus study. So that's sort of a medium-term goal. And then long-term, and I don't know if this money is really effectively for long-term projects or not, but along the lines of what Grace said, the development of that downtown Creekside Trail network for over how long a period it takes. And 10 years is optimistic, and I don't know, 40 years might be realistic. A lot of us might never see that trail, but it does enhance the accessibility and a community flavor for the whole downtown. And I think it's worth looking at an investment in that future, realizing we may not see benefits of it for a long time, but we can certainly start to plan for it. So I think there are some short, medium, and long-term, at least opportunities with respect to the creeks and the relationship to the city. So thank you.
Let me just take a minute. David mentioned shovel-ready projects. Let me just broaden the focus a little bit, because what we're talking about now are the ARPA funds, the 6.3 million. But the city's also preparing and wants to be ready with projects when the infrastructure bill, the bipartisan infrastructure bill passes. And then if the larger 3.5 trillion measure comes along, we want to be ready with our projects to get our share of that. Just as a reminder, 2008, the last time there were large amounts of money that were made available, the city did have a list of projects, and we were able to fund our entire, annual road repair through the money that we got from the federal funds. So we're going to be ready this time as well. I'll also remind you, again, we're focusing on this 6.3 million ARPA funds. Towns and Public Affairs is working on the Lafayette Business Assistance Program on other pots of money that are available through the state and through the federal government. So for those funds, they're working with 160 businesses within Lafayette. If you're not aware of that, or if you haven't reached out to them, please do. They can help you access other funds for COVID recovery.
Thank you, Carl. Gina, anything you want to add on that one?
Well, I would, in definitely following up with Carl's thoughts. I mean, this is 6.3 million in the scheme of things. It's not that much money in terms of what you're talking about, David. And yes, we look forward to infrastructure funds and what that looks like. And those are the kind of.
Now I'm watching me, Carl and Gina.
Carol, sorry, you should probably mute your. That's okay. Yeah, get more people on board. That'd be great. But that's the type of things we are looking at, and similar to how we jumped on the funding here and getting planning ready for that, we are looking at what we can be shovel ready with for more long-term projects, and obviously your ideas for creeks, all these things lend themselves well to where we want to go with that vibrant community. So creating that infrastructure for it, taking advantages of our natural assets that we have in town. Those are the things we will be hoping come back through even the GPAC planning as well. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Gina. Rolla, I know you still have your hand up, but did you have a question?
Yes. Hi. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rolla Gabin. I've got a couple of questions. Sorry if I missed this. I think it's great what's going on in downtown and the development. And, we've been in Lafayette as a business owner for 3 years now, and we can definitely see the change. We can definitely see the growth within the downtown, the living and all the building that's going on. And again, I apologize if I missed this, but have we talked about possibly parking in our downtown, and what's the plan for that? And the reason why I say that is because we are noticing, especially in the last year or so, our neighboring communities are coming into Lafayette to dine and to shop and get their hair done or what have you. So we are seeing more and more. Of course, the community support is unbelievable in Lafayette, but we're also seeing visitors from our neighboring community come into Lafayette to dine and so forth, and visitors and what have you. So I'm not sure if there is a plan about parking or not, or possibly a parking structure. So, maybe a city of Lafayette that can, charge for and so forth. And again, I apologize if I missed that answer. And then my other question and comment goes back to the vaccine and, allowing or requiring more so vaccinated people to enter show of proof and what have you. So I've been looking into this for the last 3 weeks. I'm actually also sitting around the table in the Sacramento area on Tuesday to talk about how this picture will look for our industry, and possibly, do we allow our staff to do it? Do we hire a third company that comes in? I'm all about vaccination. I just feel like there's a lot of red flags going this direction. And a lot of it is, without the neighboring communities being on the same page as community to community, it will never work, only because people will choose to drive a half an hour, 40 minutes to go to those other communities that doesn't require the vaccination, or unless every community in every county is doing the same thing, it will work. But until we can get that and we can have it, make it happen, I just don't feel like it will work. We have restaurants in many counties. And I can tell you that, I can share with you that there's a lot of counties that are a lot more on the free, like no masks, do what you want kind of thing. And they're not far away from the Contra Costa County. So unless everybody's on the same page, it will never work. And I'm also seeing that because some kids who are under age 12 that are not vaccinated are actually infecting the parents that are vaccinated. So what do we do about that? And how do we stop that? Because regardless if you're checking vaccination or not, even if you're vaccinated, you're still going to get sick from those kids who are now in school and so forth. So there's a lot of questions and a lot of uncertainty about how will this work? What will it look like? And have we talked to any of the restaurants in San Francisco and in Oakland and seeing how things are going on that side? Because I'm seeing more and more employees come on this side of the tunnel to get jobs because their restaurants or their bars have lost 30 to 40% of their business. So, we need to do more studies and we need to look into it. What I'm doing on my end is encouraging my staff. And, we're almost at 100% of our staff being vaccinated because we know that that's important. And we know that's the only way that we're going to be able to protect our team. Masks, absolutely. And we continue with the protocols from when we started from COVID-19, sanitizing, washing your hands, all that. We feel like, it does protect you. We feel like it does help to protect our guests and our employees. What people do after they, work an 8-hour shift or what have you is, they're, it's up to them. So, we need to find out more of how this would look like, and will it, will it work? Will it help? I don't know. We don't know those answers.
Yeah, and thanks, Rala. I think that is exactly the most frustrating part, the uncertainties. So I appreciate where you're coming from with those comments. And I think obviously encouraging vaccination is something we would want to continue to do, and what would want you to continue to do with your employees. And of course, masking up. So one of the things that's interesting that you mentioned is that, it's kind of a circular thing. There's many people coming from other communities into our town, which is a good thing for us, which though does also have, on the flip side, its challenges of people coming over maybe with a less percentage of vaccination. Lafayette has a very high percentage of vaccinated individuals. So we're amazing with that and grateful. But it does pose more of those uncertainties on businesses. So all we can do right now is follow those guidelines and encourage you to do the same with your, as I said, with your business and your people who are coming in. The other thing about parking we did touch on, and this is a good opportunity to kind of throw this back. So obviously we have restaurants downtown who were able to, the city able to extend relieve the policy a little bit to allow for those extended areas where restaurants can go out and put tables out. It's been very popular. That also increases like the need for parking. But what are some of your ideas? How would you like to see us work on that? to encourage people coming in, whether they be the residents or people from out of town? What ideas can you throw back out to us? That's part of the survey we had, but would love to hear it.
I mean, people are here. People are coming into Lafayette, and I talk to people every day within our restaurant, with people that are visiting, and even people that that I'm on the other side of the counties and go, oh my gosh, we were in Lafayette, we tried your restaurant, it was so great, and they're not even in Contra Costa County. So people are coming. They I mean, I don't know, has the city figured out a space to build a parking structure? I've been in Walnut Creek for a long time. My whole entire family have been in Walnut Creek. We own businesses in Walnut Creek. People complain about parking in Walnut Creek, but we also have 3 public parking garages that are 70% full. So people need to utilize the parking garages. Has Lafayette maybe thought about building a public garage that we're able to charge guests that are coming into the community? I feel like that is, that would also relieve the employee force too, that comes in and works in Lafayette. Where do they park? I love the parklets, by the way, what Lafayette has done for the restaurants and neighboring community as far as, allowing us to do the outdoor dining. But I know that's not going to be something that we're going to see there forever. So, I think parking I think it's going to be an issue. And I think it's going to be important to address those things, because people are here and they're coming. And even with the more downtown that is being built and all the downtown living there, it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen quicker than we all think.
Yeah. Thanks, Rala. I appreciate your comments.
Carl, any comments on that one?
Yeah. No, I'm in listening mode.
Perfect, no problem. So next we'll go to Carol, and then Dennis Erickson, who knows been raising hands up physically. One thing, just to bring everybody's attention on the vaccine thing, I don't know if you saw in the Contra Costa Times this morning, they talked about, I guess in the California state legislature, they just introduced a bill to require vaccines, much along the lines that Jay was talking about, basically in almost every business in California. I don't know if that's going to go any place, but relative to your point, that would actually kind of address this notion of an individual community imposing something and people just shift to go to an adjacent community. But I have no idea, just something obviously on the table, but it's interesting. So Carol, let's do you, and then Dennis Erickson is next.
Yes, thank you very much for all of you attending, and for our supervisor also for attending this meeting. It is a very important issue. I'd like to talk a little bit about the survey. I've been on the Park and Rec Commission for a long time, and we have done city surveys in the past. If they are not guided somehow, people really don't know what to do. We have gotten surveys where they come back, general question, what recreational facilities would you like to have? And we get swimming pools, 9-hole golf courses, a shooting range, a bowling alley, all kinds of things that people have no idea what the maintenance cost would be, what the costs involved. I see here 2 categories. One, are we going to support current facilities that we have, such as the library, all right, and the businesses downtown? And then are we going to, how does that compare to new ideas like the Park Theater? Also the cost and the need. I'm not sure how you go the need, but if you take just building a parking structure and the library, I think that will take most of the 6 million. Certainly the parking structure will be huge. So I think you should give people some idea about the amount of money that would be spent or needed on these projects, and the maintenance also that would cost the city. So those are all things that to me would guide people's choice of where they think the money should be spent, instead of just putting out a survey, where do you think the money should be spent? And then you get the swimming pools and the all that sort of thing. I have found in surveys they're not really accurate unless you give the public some guidance. And I don't know if you want to do 2 surveys. You could get back. If the first survey is to say, where should the money be spent? And you just give them a list of everything we've talked about, the creek plan, the parks downtown, a parking structure, the library, the businesses, and just people just check it off with no idea of how much of the pot would be used up by any 1 or 2 of them and what the maintenance cost to the city would be. So that's, I just wanted to bring that up. I think it's a very important issue, and I think we have a very savvy public, and there should be some guidance about what kind of choice they are making. Thank you.
That's very good advice for development of the community survey, which is coming next. The one that's out there now, the business survey, is fairly detailed and is asking for specific information. It's got a couple of categories for asking businesses and nonprofits if investments in particular areas would be helpful. So I think that what we're asking there is just more of a direction. Would increased police presence would be helpful? Would investing in parklets or benches be helpful? Would enhanced access to the creeks be helpful? Just trying to get a sense of what we should look at. But you're right, and parking structures are very, very expensive and would take most of the funding. So that's good guidance. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just throw on there. There is a good element of that kind of brainstorming, though. Like to your point, Carol, people came up with all sorts of ideas. We kind of want people to come up with all sorts of ideas because we are in planning mode, whether it be how to spend this 6.3 million, but also in general, what are you looking for in your community, to come down? So I think you're absolutely right. We need more guided questions, and we need more of the context of this particular money, how it can be spent, and take advantage of the community survey that we do have planned to come out to also ask about their individual vision. What do you want to see as our town is growing?
On costs and maintenance costs afterwards.
Yeah, probably a little bit of opportunity to do a little education in there. You're right. Thank you.
Yeah, Carol, absolutely. That's a great point. Dennis Erickson, you are next, and then David Bennett after that. Dennis.
Thank you. And thank you, Carl and Gina, for spending time with us. We really appreciate it. So 2 things, and they're connected. One is that theaters bring in people to eat dinner. That's one of the realities. So the Park Theater and the Town Hall Theater, we have 2 assets that we should be playing up because that's what theaters do, is they bring people in to eat dinner. The question that I have is, are we doing anything, or do we intend to do anything to market our wonderful city of Lafayette? Are we getting the word out? Because we've got a wonderful place here, and there's so many good things to talk about.
It's a great idea, and it's one of the things that we are looking at. In fact, right now, Carl and I just met with Thomas. One of the things we have been considering in the subcommittee is the gift card program, where try to bring community members into town and give them incentive to keep on coming, so to speak. So that is definitely an opportunity to invite people far and wide to try Lafayette, see all the great things that you're either you know well, or you don't know well yet. Let's get to know you. So yes, there's a lot of great amenities in town, and we need to trumpet that more often than we do. So thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Great. Excellent. Thank you very much, Dennis. David Bennett.
Yes. So I'm thinking about the future, and the future is going to be electronic cars. Have we considered putting in a lot more electric charging stations in downtown to bring people in, and people will have to stay there, 20 minutes to an hour to go to our restaurants?
Yeah, there's a subcommittee of the Environmental Task Force that is working on that, looking at what the city should be doing and looking at what we should be doing with respect to new building, particularly multifamily units and what should be required in those units. Because right now the state codes require, I think it's 10% of the spaces to be EV capable. And we're looking at a much higher percentage to be EV ready because we do need to get ahead of that. And I know the state is looking at it, but our present view is that the state is not, well, we should be doing better than the state is doing on that. Should be requiring more because that's going to be the future. We need to be ready for it. So yes, the Environmental Task Force is on that one and we're bringing something to the council.
And you're looking in downtown to put them in.
Yes, but the change in the code, most of the multifamily will be downtown, but they'll also be.
Oh, you went mute, Carl.
Oh, Carl, you muted
Oh,
yourself.
I'm sorry. Yes, most of it will. Most of the multifamily will be downtown, if not all. So that will, yes, it will be downtown.
I'm just going to take a quick opportunity to plug Councilmember Kwok. He, in coming into the Environmental Task Force just recently, he took the lead on looking into reach codes, basically on how we could move a little more forward, as Carl alluded to kind of going past what the state's requiring now. So he has an amazing background in bringing electrification and knowing about that. So I think that'll be a great asset for council as we consider it. So great question.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Carl. Kathy Merchant, and then Tracy, I know has a point, but Kathy.
So I just want to echo Jay and Rolla and some of the other comments about parking. I do think that we missed a great opportunity to have parking right next to Diablo Foods where the bank went in, because that was a really core area that would serve downtown. But I know parking structures are expensive. I think it would be great to have something behind the Park Theater, because the Park Theater will attract people from out of town who have to park somewhere. Parking comes up as almost the #1 priority, parking and traffic, on every survey that I've seen from the city. And because structures are expensive, I think it would help to look creatively at where are spaces that we could use for parking now. Housing is going to be buying up most of, because it's an opportune time with legislation to be buying the downtown area for housing, and that is where we need housing, and I support housing there. But there is unused parking spaces. For instance, the bank parking lots, you look at Bank of the West and Chase next to the library, and next to Diablo Foods. And I know that, I believe in Walnut Creek, they've worked out some deals with the banks to be able to use that, make that public during non-banking hours. And I think very few people actually use the public parking under the Mercantile building. It's kind of a quiet resource and it's right in the center of town. So I think looking as creatively as possible. I don't know, I have not seen much use of the investment the city put in the property down by the car wash there. Unfortunately, we're kind of lazy and we all like to be within about 3 blocks of where we're going. It's a very bad habit that we've developed, but I think parking is really key. And the second thing I want to say is about the library. It was one thing to raise money to build the library. That was exciting. And it's always great to see something come up from the ground. But the ongoing maintenance is a huge challenge. And the Library Foundation handles the vast majority of the improvements to the library. So I think the idea of looking at what are the assets we already have and making sure they're supported is important. And the final thing is to channel Larry Blodgett. The city needs to be sure that the infrastructure is in place to support all of the new construction that's going on around town. And that includes sewers and everything that it takes to, I support the housing, but there are costs attributed to that we should be sure is part of the development costs. The end.
Thank you, Kathy. Those are all excellent comments and recommendations. You're right. The creativity around looking at spaces that may be available to us or we can talk about being available is a very good idea. And infrastructure for sure. Coming downtown, that's an important factor, especially with the number of new units that we will be planning to have opportunity to develop there. We're going to need to make sure both hard and soft infrastructure in terms of services, fire, police, utility, safety, are all in place and support that. So thanks. Thank you. Just one last thing. And the library, yes. That's
it's easy to think that the library is there and that it just functions magically and that it's a public institution, but it's really private dollars that keep it going. And so more just the sustainability in terms of just the physical issues around the library are really important to have city input contributions.
Thank you for bringing that forward. I saw Karen Mulvaney mentioned that in that as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Great, Carl. Any comments?
I'm still in listening mode.
Perfect. Great. Well, I think we're almost out of time. So Tracy Farrell, you maybe you'll get the last word in before closing remarks. You unmute yourself there, Tracy.
Yeah, okay. Well, someone mentioned marketing Lafayette. And in my past life, I was a marketeer. One of the things the Park Theater is thinking about doing is creating these very cool little pins, little lapel pins. And one of the things I thought would be really fun as we go forward with this is we have some very iconic places in Lafayette. We have the Reservoir Tower, we have the beautiful library, we have Town Hall Theater, we have the Roundup, but we have a lot of different places that could lend themselves to a pin packet that, you know, you see some of the silly things that are sold at Elmwood. I love Elmwood, but, you know, some of the fun little things that are sold there that are branded and themed. And I just thought that this just came in last night to me, and I just thought it'd be fun to share with you all as we move forward, that we do have a lot to focus on here in this community and a lot that we can share with others. So anyway, I just thought it'd be a fun thing for you to see.
That's very neat. That I could see that like a collector series.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Really awesome idea. Yeah.
That's right. The Rome has Coliseum, and we got the Park Theater. We can.
Well, we've got a lot of things, but anyway, it'd be a nice set, a nice gift set for all of our relatives, right?
Absolutely.
Stocking stuffers.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, Tracy, I think that's a wonderful way to conclude our hour together. Gina or Carl, do you have any final thoughts for us before we wrap it up?
I just want to say thank you, and please get in touch if you want to talk. The door is open, so to speak. But please do appreciate all the comments that came in and are open to more. And take those surveys if you haven't yet.
Take a survey.
Right.
Great, Gina.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I echo Gina. Please finish the survey. If you would like to talk about anything, call either one of us, call any council member. We would love to talk more about any of this. We'd like to talk to you at some point just generally about what you want the downtown to look like in 10 years and what we should be doing now to get there. I think that might be a great topic for us to discuss again. And that also would be helpful in deciding where to put these funds. One of the big thoughts is, do we invest now for things that will get us where we want to be 10 years from now? So
only business owners can take the survey now, right? Or just anybody?
This is a survey for business owners and nonprofits.
Yeah.
Specifically for the impact of COVID and what would help get recover from the pandemic.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much, everybody. 9 o'clock. It was great having coffee with you all, and stay tuned. I'm sure we'll have another one of these in the next couple of months. So thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great Friday and great weekend. Take
Great.
care.
Thanks, John Jay, the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chamber.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.